morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Rivers, Senior Director of Connected Commerce for IGA. On our webinar this week, I'm happy to have Abby Ayers, the Director of Independent Grocery Sales for Flashfood. So we'll be talking about a very cool program through Flashfood to reduce shrink and grow your bottom line, all while reducing food waste. So Abby, I'll turn it over to you, but on your first slide, I was completely shocked at that $428 billion a year in food waste in the US. That just completely blew me away. So I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Appreciate everyone spending your morning with me. I'm Abby. Like Sarah said, I lead independent sales at Flashfood, and I've spent my career in this industry working on some big issues in supply chains for grocers and with grocers. And thank you so much for joining me today to talk about one of the most persistent challenges that we face in grocery retail, which is shrink. And I want to set the context today, because when I talk about shrink, I'm not talking so much about theft, mislabeling of pricing, things like that, but I'm talking specifically about perfectly good products that either end up expired, damaged, or unsold. So food that sits too long that we might try to mitigate through markdowns and otherwise just goes unsold that could be a source of revenue for us. So we'll look at why shrink is not just a cost center, but it's really a missed revenue and missed customer opportunity. So my goal today is not to sell you anything, but to really help reframe how you might think about shrink and share some data and real world strategies that have helped independent grocers turn that waste into margin recovery. So let's start with the big picture that Sarah already mentioned. So across the US, food waste represents about $428 billion every year. And for independent grocers, that can mean losing over $40,000 annually to shrink. So that's literally money that is being thrown away. And that's before we even talk about labor, energy, and space tied up to those unsold products. I talk to grocers every week who say, we're already discounting these items, we just can't move them fast enough, and that's really the heart of the issue. So what if shrink isn't just a loss to manage, but what if it's really an opportunity to grow? Grocers who have reframed shrink this way, as a shopper acquisition and engagement tool, have cut waste by nearly 30% on average. And the magic is that customers are drawn in by short-dated deals, and they often become loyal customers. They start coming back regularly to see what's new. And these items don't just move inventory, but they move people. They bring new foot traffic in the door. So why aren't markdowns enough? First, they tend to devalue the retail experience. Customers start expecting deep discounts everywhere. And we all know these shoppers, we call them the circular hoppers. They're either coming in just for a specific deal and they're going store to store, or they're just coming in and looking for your yellow tags. But that's not really the biggest problem. The biggest problem with markdowns is actually those customers who are coming in with the full intent and capability to purchase a full price item, but they see the yellow tag and they automatically go for that discounted price. And let's be honest, I've been that person. I've gone in knowing I'm gonna buy a steak and I see the yellow tag and I'm like, why not save a little bit? With full capabilities of being able to purchase and full intent to purchase at that full price. But we don't want that item. We're marking it down because we don't want it to go to waste. So markdowns obviously are what we traditionally go to alleviate food waste, but there are some issues with it as well. Second, we really have limited visibility beyond the aisle. So markdowns work really well, but they rely on foot traffic, meaning if the right customer isn't in the right aisle at the right time, that product might still go to waste. Thinking of that steak example, knowing we have maybe 10 steaks that are going to expire in that day, and we're going to mark them down significantly, but we know we might only be able to sell 7 of those. So, we're still going to mark them down and hope to sell them all. But even with our best intentions, that steak might still make it to the trash. And finally, markdowns are really reactive, right? They're not strategic. So they essentially delay the shrink. They don't solve the problem. So think about your stores. How many times have you had to toss out perfectly good items even after discounting them? So thinking through even the labor in that, having someone sticker it once, having someone sticker it again and still not selling it, and having to have that item pulled off the trash or pulled off the shelf, put in the trash can, and then having to pay for trash removal on top of that. So the key is expanding the audience for these products. So think about if you could go beyond the physical aisles and no longer rely on just hoping that the right people are going to go down the right aisles at the right time to get those products to save them from the trash. But if you could use digital channels, whether that be apps, social media, text alerts, now your markdowns are becoming a marketing tool. It's driving immediacy, and it's driving people into stores when you need them to come in to get that discounted item before it hits the trash, and to open up opportunity for sales and hopefully full price sales in other places. So now, instead of waiting for customers to find deals, you're really inviting them to engage before they even walk in your store. And this is where we've seen major success, especially in the independent grocery channel. When stores connect directly with local shoppers looking for savings and who, really care about this sustainability and fighting food waste as well. Now you're able to engage shoppers who might not have ever stepped foot into your store. And here's some real life business cases of what happens when you do that. So shoppers who come in for short dated deals, they don't just buy those items. On average, they're spending an additional $28 on other items during their same store visit. So they might be coming in for the immediacy of purchasing that discounted item, but they're spending an additional $28 more to finish their shop. They're also coming back nearly 4 times more a month, and they're checking those daily deals. 77% of them are checking daily for updates. So they're coming in for a discounted item that might otherwise be thrown away. They're spending additional money on full price items, and they're now checking back with you more frequently and coming in more often. When you can hook someone with a product that might, they're buying at a discount because it's going to expire soon, they're typically preparing that meal within the next day or 2, and it's changing their shopping behavior. It's creating a stickier customer because they're now coming in more frequently because they're doing smaller shops more frequently and building that habit or loyalty with you. This has completely changed my shopping behavior. I'm the first to admit I was once a completely dedicated millennial Aldi shopper. I looked for the treasure hunt. I loved the thrill of the deal. And since finding Flashfood, now my shopping behavior has completely changed. I would often drive past my independent grocery store to go to Aldi, and this store is at the end of my block. And now that store offers Flashfood, I go pick up my order multiple times a week, and I'm doing my entire shop with them because why would I go somewhere else? So this is often not just the one-time deal seeker or the circular hunter. It's really creating a new loyal customer base. It's a great way to be competitive against big box or discounters as well, offering them something sweet, this incentive, while getting them into your store more frequently. So if you think about shrink like that, if you think about shrink as shrink recovery, not just about reducing loss, but actually creating that frequency and loyalty, now it's a tool in your toolbox. So I want to share with you 5 proven strategies to alleviate food waste and to think about how you can convert your shrink to growth. So number 1, get the word out beyond your aisles. So let's talk about how we get the word out once we've got the short date products to move. Most stores rely on what I call, again, the classic manager special. And to be fair, we know these work. We've been doing it for a long time. They catch attention. They help move the product when it needs to be moved, but they also, again, come with trade-offs. So, you know, for one, they can train customers to wait for discounts. I might be going in to do my Sunday shop at a store and I'm thinking about that steak, but I don't see the yellow tag or I don't see a discount. And so maybe I'll just hold off another week for that. That same shopper who might have bought that item at full price yesterday is now waiting. And that's not always great for your category margins. And so then some stores try to fix this by moving markdowns to a secondary location, which I've seen a lot lately. It's, okay, let's pull instead of having the yellow tag steak right beside the full price, let's pull it out and put it in a secondary cooler where we have lots of mixed discounted meat items, for example. So that can also work. And you're adding additional labor. Now you're stickering and you're moving it to a secondary location. Sometimes multiple times a week. And it's not quite sustainable from a labor perspective. So what's the real solution? What if we could share those markdowns with more customers, not just the ones who happen to walk into the store that day or the week? What if you could reach them before they even got to the parking lot? So some stores are already trying this. I've seen stores post on Facebook, sending out text alerts, or putting deals in their weekly emails, and that's a great start. But imagine taking that a step further. What if you could connect your markdowns to a digital marketplace where local shoppers are actively looking for deals for that night's dinner? And so that's where a platform like Flashfood comes in. To tell you a little bit about Flashfood has over 1.5 million users who open the app every day looking for value and convenience. So instead of your markdowns only being visible to the handful of people who stroll past your cooler, you're suddenly in front of thousands of nearby shoppers who are ready to buy. You're not just discounting, but now you're transitioning that potential shrink into a marketing tool. The bottom line, your markdowns already exist. So the question is, how wide is your audience? If you can extend those offers digitally, you're no longer relying on luck or foot traffic. You're now turning markdowns into marketing fuel. The second strategy is giving yourself days, not hours, to work with. One of the most common issues I see in stores is waiting until the very last minute to act on short-dated product. A lot of times we're reacting 24 to 36 hours before expiration, and then the clock is basically running out. Instead, if we can flag these items 2 to 3 days ahead of time, we give sorry. We give ourselves room to actually sell through instead of throw away. So imagine we have a clear, consistent process by department where we understand when things are being marked down, when they're moving to a digital marketplace, when things are getting donated, and we have clear strategies around each of those. This would help our team members know exactly when to pull products, how to discount and promote them, where to move them once they're marked down. And too often I see stores putting in tons of labor, marking things down multiple times, physically moving them from department to a secondary display, and still ending up throwing it away. And it's frustrating and wasteful on every level. Even with Flashfood, I've had conversations with stores where they'll say, we posted the product at 30 to 50% off, but now there's only a few hours left before it expires. So I ask them, well, have you thought about marking it down even further? And they'll often say, oh, like I didn't think we were allowed to do that, or our managers will be upset about lost margin. And then I remind them, but wouldn't your manager rather have a little less margin than no margin at all, plus the cost to throw it away? And so sometimes it's not that teams don't want to act, it's that they're not sure they can. And so setting those expectations and permissions clearly from leadership down can make a really big difference, both in morale and results. So the takeaway here is give yourself time, give your team clarity, and give them permission to protect your margin instead of chasing perfection. Strategy 3, focus on profitable departments first. So when it comes to tackling shrink, obviously not all departments are created equal. If you're just getting started, the best approach is to start where the margins matter the most. I talked about steak because your meat, your bakery, your prepared foods, these are categories often with the biggest contributors to shrink. They're also the ones though that can drive real return when discounted. We call these items basket drivers. We know from years of having over 1.5 million customers on our platform that people will drive up to 15 minutes to a store to get a deal on produce, on basically the perimeter of the store, produce, seafood, meat. The center of the store items, because they tend to be less from a dollar perspective, they're saving less on a percentage. And so those we call basket builders. So if you think about focusing on those really important categories first, then you can really drive change just by having a very few people involved. So for example, across all of our partners, when a partner posts meat, it has an 89% sell-through on Flashfood and it sells within hours. That's incredibly strong, and it shows that shoppers are not only willing to buy short-dated meat, but they seek it out. It's a value play for them and a margin recovery play for you. We've also introduced a fresh to frozen program, and it's been a game changer for stores who want to maximize every bit of value out of their inventory. And here's how it works. So you sell a fresh product at full price, basically up until the date of expiration. On that final date, instead of tossing it, you freeze it, and then you post it on Flashfood. The result for a fresh to frozen program is 98% sell-through. And you're now extending the shelf life of that inventory another 30 days and giving customers affordable, high-quality protein options. This approach proves that profitability and waste reduction don't have to be at odds. When you focus on these high-value departments and build smart processes around them, you're not just cutting losses, you're creating a sustainable, repeatable model for margin recovery. The fourth strategy I'm going to talk about is controlling your discount pricing. So not all discounts need to be the same. We think about our discount model, and I often see 25%, 50%, 75%, 90%. And you'll see that across categories, maybe with different shelf lives left, if it's a bakery item or it's a frozen item. But not all categories should be treated equally. Setting discounts by category and by shelf life will give you so much more variety to work with. We talk about this as dynamic pricing. And so that means we know that meat, for example, at an 89% sell-through, it doesn't need to be discounted 50% to sell. In fact, it probably doesn't, it only needs to be discounted 35%. Other categories might need that 50% discount to drive the customer to come into the store for it. So dynamic pricing by category and shelf life can be balanced and can help balance that sell-through and margin protection. Something we're working towards in the app is being able to see and have that pricing set on its own. So being able to say, okay, this is how many users are in this specific area at this store. This is how much meat is in the platform. On average, meat sells in X number of hours. That means the app would recommend the price discount. And as the day went on or the hours got closer to the expiration date, it would dynamically discount to ensure that no product gets thrown away and that everything gets picked up, but avoiding deep discount cuts until absolutely necessary. And strategy 5, track and follow up. All right, so you've marked it down, you've sold it, and the product is out the door. Hallelujah. But here's where the real opportunity begins, the what happens next. Remember, our goal is obviously to alleviate food waste, to reduce your costs and return money back to your bottom line. But you also want to create that loyal, sticky customer. Now that you've got them in your store, you want to make sure that you hook them to keep coming back to you. If you're not tracking who's buying these deals or how they're responding, we're leaving so much insights on the table. Even the simplest data, who purchased, when, what department, can tell you what's working, who's engaging, and where to focus next. And here's what we've seen time and time again. A lot of these so-called deal seekers, they're not just bargain hunters, they're habit builders. And so once they discover a store that helps them save money and reduce waste, they continue to come back, and that's what you want. That consistency is loyalty, and it started with a markdown. When you capture that shopper data, whether it's your own system or a digital platform like Flashfood, you suddenly have this window into what motivates your potential customers or the shoppers in your area. You can see who's buying short-dated bakery items versus meat items, who checks in most often, what days, drive the most engagement. And those insights are gold, because now you can take those insights that you've captured through your short-dated inventory and apply them to your overall merchandising and marketing strategy in store and outside of store. So for example, one store realized that their Flashfood shoppers were coming between 4 and 6 p.m., so right before dinner time. So they started featuring more prepared foods and deli items during that window, and sell-through jumped overnight. And that's the kind of simple, actionable learning that drives real margin recovery. So the point is, don't just celebrate that the product sold. Ask who bought it, when did they buy it, and why did they buy it? And use those insights to fine-tune future promotional strategies. And to build relationships that really last longer than the shelf life of a single item. And so this is what a successful shrink to loyalty journey looks like. The first stage of that is the discovery phase. And so shoppers find these short-dated items or deals digitally, hopefully through Flashfood. And then you have the engagement phase. So this is where they're exploring, maybe they've found something that they like, they're gonna try it out, they're coming into your store to pick it up. Now they're exploring other departments and they're starting to spend more. The third stage is the conversion stage. And so this is when they continue to come back. They're shopping more often. They're coming multiple times a week. They're opening the app multiple times a day. And now you've got your hook into them and they're becoming a loyal customer. And so what's powerful here is that every stage turns this potential loss into incremental revenue. They find an item, they've purchased that item or they put it in their basket and they're continuing to scroll. What else is there? What other things might I try or do I need? And then they're coming into store and they're finishing the rest of their shop. And so you're getting them at all stages of the journey. And you don't need to overhaul your entire operation to start seeing results. You can think of this like in bite-sized chunks. So one, the first week we're really gonna let's just identify what is driving our shrink. What are those hot spot departments? Is it meat? Is it produce? Is it deli? And then once we understand what's really driving that, now we're gonna test one approach. So maybe it's a staged markdown, or maybe it is throwing a bunch of produce, like damaged produce items or whatever it may be, into a produce box and selling those. Just testing one thing and seeing what resonates with our customers. Once we do that, then we're going to track results. So we're going to monitor that sell-through. We're going to see how basket size changes. We're going to see how frequently those customers repeat visit. And lastly, we're going to really build and scale what works. And so you're taking these small, quick wins that build momentum and often pay for themselves in weeks. And it's super simple and easy to test. So before I go on, I would love to ask a quick question if you just want to pop in the chat. When you think about shrink, what would success look like for your store if you could reduce shrink? Is it less waste? Is it more profit? Is it more loyal customers? Is it increased foot traffic? Is it a stronger ESG or sustainability story? If you had to pick, what would that main thing look like? What would success look like to reduce shrink? You can just type your answers in the chat. And while you do that, I'm going to talk about ESG and community impact, because obviously by taking short-dated products and offering it to customers at a discount, clearly we've talked about you are doing what is best for the environment. We talk about how much food goes to waste in the States and how many people also go hungry, this like crazy dichotomy that we continue to wrestle with. And so reducing shrink, it's not just about reducing, or it's not just about the dollars, which of course is good. We need the dollars to keep our lights on and keep in business, but it also can be about doing the right thing. And there's a lot of strength that comes within the community and the support of that. Less waste means less cost, and more importantly, more food reaching families who need it. And so many independents use this as part of their ESG story or proof that can be that we can be profitable and purposeful at the same time. And independents have always had such a beautiful way of telling their community stories. And this is just one more way to be able to share that with your community. So I told you I wasn't going to sell, but I did want to give you just a brief overview outside of what I've shared through the antidotes of our strategies to address shrink about Flashfood. So Flashfood, as I mentioned, it's the leading marketplace where grocers turn surplus food into revenue. It is an app where grocers scan products by the UPC. So you just scan the barcode, or you can take pictures of these, you're seeing these produce bundles. You can bundle veggies or bakery items and snap a picture and post them to our 1.4 million users. And the customers purchase the product directly through the app. So they pay through the app, they purchase, they get pickup instructions for that specific store. They go into store to pick up their items, typically going to customer service or to like the clerk over the checks, the self-checkouts, saying, hi, I'm here for my Flashfood order. Then they're given their order. And because they know exactly what item they purchased, if I purchase the salmon and the veggies, then I also might be picking up my rice and my sauce to complete that meal. So that's how Flashfood works. And I couldn't end without sharing a case study on an IGA retailer. And so one IGA store was losing thousands monthly to shrink. By posting this short-dated items daily, they cut their waste dramatically, and just this year have generated $6,000 in sales that would have otherwise been thrown away. They've diverted almost 3,000 pounds of food, and they've acquired 70 new customers. They're posting 6 days a week, and their sell-through is 40%, which is below our average. But this is a really unique store because this is one of our only stores in Florida, actually. Florida is a new market for us, and this store is kind of on an island. And so when you think about a app-based model, obviously having users, that is really important, and it affects sell-through. But this store, even with a low sell-through, is really doing amazing things with food waste recovery and acquiring new customers where this would have been a cost center for them. So to bring this all together, shrink connects to every single part of our business. It impacts our profitability. It impacts shopper loyalty and sustainability. We don't want our customers going into store and seeing bruised produce, even though that produce is perfectly fine for consumption. We don't want our customers being traded down when they're perfectly capable and willing to purchase a full price item. And so by taking a really strategic approach supported by digital tools, you can really turn this persistent challenge into a lasting advantage. And the reason I'm here and talking about these issues and sharing a little about Flashfood is because we have an exclusive IGA partnership. We are a Red Oval partner, and we are part of the preferred program for IGA retailers. And what does this mean? This means that you get enhanced revenue sharing as an IGA retailer to come onto the Flashfood platform, and simplified onboarding, marketing, and support to implement this in your stores. And so I would love to chat with any of you offline and share more details on how this works, how does it get implemented, and what it could look like for your stores. We also have an ROI calculator. So if you already know your shrink, you're able to type that in to our ROI calculator online, and it accounts for labor and all of the different factors that go in and can tell you what you stand to gain by leveraging Flashfood. Great. So I'd love to open it up for any questions.
Thanks, Abby. That's great. I think there are some questions in the chat, if you can see them there.
Cool. Great. So let's say our store signs up for a Flashfood. Your app will tell people in the area that we're on Flashfood, but what about on our end? How do we educate shoppers about the opportunity to purchase and what it means? Such a great question. Yes, so as the question answered, the app does communicate to customers. So when a new store comes on the app, every customer within the area gets an email that says, surprise, there's a new store on the app. They also get a push notification, and then once that store does their first post, there's a secondary push notification that lets local shoppers know that there are now items to shop. Outside of the app, there are several ways to educate shoppers within your four walls or within your community. And so every store coming on the platform gets an entire marketing kit that includes like stanchion signs, posters, a break room poster for associates, all kinds of signage for like a flash zone, whether that's like a cooler or just a dry rack. We have bag stuffers, so they're postcards that you can put into every one of your customers' grocery bags that has a QR code. Every new customer that downloads the app gets $5 on Flashfood, which is essentially $10 in free groceries, and every one of your associates gets $20 in free groceries, because we know that our associates are our #1 advocates and salespeople. We also have a variety of digital assets like social media templates and joint press releases that can be leveraged to communicate and celebrate within your local community.
Awesome.
See another question. You mentioned giving the team permission to protect the margin and make decisions about lowering the discount if time is nearly up on the item. Does Flashfood offer team training so our teams know how to use the app? Yes. So we actually have an amazing training team who will train each store on how to use the app. But it's more than just how to use the app. We also work hand in hand with you on how we are actually going to implement Flashfood into your habits and processes you already have. So we ask a lot of questions about how do you cull product? Is it done in the mornings? Is it done by department? Is it done by the owner of the store or general manager? Do you already have policies around pulling product at 3 days before it expires? Or, what does that look like by department? And we help you build Flashfood into those policies and procedures so that it's super clear to the teams. And then when we do the actual app training, we're also training them on that change of process. So each store is trained, and then 30 to 45 days after the first post, we do another check-in to just share results, provide insights on how you might change it to get better sell-through or to reach more customers based off what your goals are, and to answer any questions or issues that the team might have run into while they've used the app in the first 30 to 45 days.
Great. I think we have one last question in there.
Okay, cool. So these are great tips for extending shelf life of our products. Love the option for freezing meat. With so many options, is there an account person assigned to each store using Flashfood? I worry that I'll forget what options or tactics I should be implementing to get the most of the program. Yes. So once a store is fully onboarded, they are assigned an account manager who supports them on every step of the way. We also have 24/7 customer care. So that's a separate team who, if there are questions, like we get questions like, I forgot my login, or I accidentally marked this order as picked up and it actually hasn't been, can you contact the customer? Things like that, the customer care team takes care of. The app also is really intuitive. It actually has tooltips. So throughout the app, there are videos or little tips that explain exactly what the function is and, you know, commonly asked questions regarding it. There are training videos loaded. So if there's ever a question and, you know, someone wants to like look in the app specifically, they can almost find any answer there. They can also contact customer care, and obviously during business hours are free to reach out to their account manager.
Awesome. On your case study store from Mount Plymouth, do you recall when they started the program?
I believe they started at some point in 2024. And so those numbers just for 2025, just first, I think through August.
Okay. And if other people on the webinar aren't aware, that store is a little tiny store. I want to say it has under 10,000 square feet of selling space. So for them to have, you know, $6,000 that they didn't have before in an itty bitty store, that's pretty amazing.
On an island.
Right, exactly.
In Orlando, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, unless there's any more questions, thank you, Abby, for joining us today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email myself or Abby, and we'd be happy to answer those for you. All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you. Yeah.